the hand that feeds me. But here's the email. We need to talk about Hospital 8 and getting as many of the doctors to move their cases. Right? So we got to get the doctors to move the cases. That's how we sold it to Hospital 8. And if they don't see an increase in volume, they will not move forward with us. It's the emails that get you. Here's the letter that was sent. Okay? Please tell them to use their best efforts to treat patients. See? It may be that they were unhappy. I'm not disputing that. But the letter, which, all you get is the tangible stuff, the letter says, push them, encourage them. It doesn't say, you guys told us how much you hate it, we're reminding you we have a service there. This is the problem. This is what they worked off of. For better or for worse, it's what the government did.
Yeah, but again, Marion, if they don't go to the hospital and threaten,
right.
If they want to just move their case, they certainly can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They want to move, they can move. Doctors can refer their patients wherever they want. No one can force a doctor to do that.
If the hospital makes any kinds of threats to them in return, they have violated.
Well, that's interesting. There's something called, it's not a fair fight. There's what's called economic credentialing. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is they can't try to influence the doctors on where they send their Medicare patients.
They should not. Although they sometimes will take away privileges if you don't. There are doctors who have invested in private hospitals and then they take away the privileges. You got to wonder, don't you? Yeah. But they should not be able to threaten. What?
I have a question, just to clarify though.
Sure.
In any situation though, the company, we can go to our doctors and say, look, we're not reaching agreement here. We would suggest or whatever that you can move your cases to this case. And that's not a violation if we don't say anything in the hospital, if the doctors don't say
I wouldn't say you can move your case. I think what I would say is, let's see what Tom thinks about this. But I think that what I would say is, we have been unable to get a contract at Hospital X. We have a contract at Hospital Y across town. They have a good service. They have, tell all the good things about them. And then,
Right. Okay.
What if a physician asks me, or any of us, where UUC does better financially?
They're owners, right? I think you can tell them that. I think you can tell them we have a rate of X at this hospital, a rate of Y at that hospital. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You're just telling them, don't tell them to move them or anything. Just they say, what's our rate? They're owners of the company. You can tell them. I wouldn't get further than that.
Okay.
Keep it simple. Joe Friday. Facts, nothing but the facts.
Yeah.
Yeah. More questions on this one? Anybody? Comments? Okay. We're going to go fast. We're going too fast. Okay. Here's another one. February of 2007, Valentine's Day. Email from an individual at United to another individual at United discussing Hospital 8. This is the one we just talked about. First individual says that she spoke with the CFO and they are disappointed in the number of cases done at the hospital. And then goes on to say, they don't want to finalize the contract until we've done more cases so they can be confident about what their revenue will be. Okay, so it's all part of the same thing.
Is that wrong? That's the hospital, not us. So is that wrong for a hospital to make a business decision saying, we're not giving you a contract until we see where it's good, if your services are going to be used? Is that a wrong thing?
Well, the problem is that when it got pushed in with everything else and there were letters to the doctors saying, please send your patients, the government said, look, I will tell you, we had arguments for a lot of these things. The problem here was that there was an allegation that kind of came through the emails that there was a promise to send Medicare and Medicaid patients. Remember, go back to the email a couple of times ago. Please send your patients, especially Medicare and Medicaid patients. The non-government patients don't matter for the kickback statute. When you paid the money, you only paid a multiple of the Medicare patients and Medicaid patients. So that wasn't it. So what happened is you put this together with what was said before. It's not any one email alone. It's the whole package. Remember what I said about the person who talked about the 5 cases and the 5 cases? You have to look at the whole thing. The government looks at the whole thing. They won't take each individual email. They look at all of them together. So here's more on this one. So in March, email between Dr. E and an individual at United where she states cases really need to be done at Hospital 8 because United represented to the hospital that its physicians would refer cases there. So so what it says in there is United represented that the physicians would refer cases there. Then there's an email from Dr. E to someone at United with a carbon copy to 7 other physicians in Dr. E's group. I will point out that I doubt there was a carbon copy because I don't think most people know what carbon paper is anymore. So anyway, it was a CC, I'm sure, but that's what they wrote and I just copied. So another email from Dr. E to United, and then he copies everybody in his practice group. And he says, this is what's interesting. If we want more stock, it's imperative that we capture the Medicare and Medicaid cases and increase the revenue on commercial by remembering Hospital 8 on Thursdays. So now it's tied into their value of their stock. This was a company, remember, that was merging in. And so what they're saying is, he's telling them to send the cases because we're going to get more stock. This is a doctor issue.
I would like to know who said that.
No, it was the doctor that
It was
said
a doctor that said
it.
it.
Yeah, but who told the doctor that? Because that's never a policy in this company, ever.
It had to do with the way the merger was done.
Say that again?
It had to do with the merger of that company. It's not something that we're permitting to happen anymore.
We never did that, ever, ever, ever.
All right, well, we'll show you later. So you see what's happening here is there are more ties into people. This is the doctor side. The doctor what the doctor's saying is I'll get more out of United if I send my cases. You guys remember, there are 8 of us and let's all send our cases. Okay. Then there's a March 26th email from someone at United back to Dr. E and partners instructing them to treat all cases at Hospital 8. Right, that's what they said. This is their recap, okay? They go through the whole recap. Then they say there's an email between them that says that she met with the first individual so then there's a May 16th email from individual United to 2 individuals at Hospital 8 with a copy to individual at United. First individual United says she met with the doctors on Monday evening, and quote, and they expressed an interest in moving most of their Medicare cases and commercial cases to Hospital 8. We estimate that the Medicare volume alone will be at least 120 cases a year. We would really like to move forward with finalizing our contract with you. So what's happening is someone from United is saying to the hospital and saying that the doctors express an interest in moving their patients, and we estimate it's going to be at least 120 cases a year. Please sign the contract. What it sounds like is the doctors agreed, they're sending their patients, they're going to send you 120 cases a year, sign the contract. That's what happened. That's what the government saw. Whether it's what really happened, I don't know. But just like when the Medicare pays, they only pay what's in the chart. They only look at the emails. A month and a half later, United executed a contract with Hospital 8 that included an exclusivity provision.
Was Hospital 8 using another vendor?
No.
No, it wasn't using anybody.
Okay.
It was just to get the
Just to get
contract.
the business.
So, that's what the government showed us. That's a piece of what the government showed us. And that's how we got there. And so, what are the lessons to be drawn?
Don't use email.
Well, the lesson is not threaten the hospitals, but don't use email. The lesson is don't threaten the hospitals. Okay? What?
It's text.
Wait, what?
Text messages.
Oh, yeah, well, text, I'm sure, I guess they can find. I don't know how you do text, but I guess they can. But the lesson is not to do it, but not use email. The lesson is not to do it.
Of course, this
We're
is
being taken. We want to be clear.
Mary, this is not a threat. This is a reverse threat. Nobody's threatening the Hospital 8.
Well, it's a promise.
Well, just say, we'll give you cases.
Well, that's right.
That's not a threat.
No, it's not. It's not. Threats aren't the only way. Threats are ones people find hard to understand or kickbacks. Let me ask you a question. If I said to the hospital, I will give you $10,000 if you'll sign my contract.
If what?
Hospital administrator, I will give the hospital $10,000 if you'll sign the contract. We'd say that's a kickback, right?
Right.
If I say to the hospital, I will send you 120 Medicare patients if you give me a contract. Is it
because nobody wants to treat Medicare.
One is you're getting service, and the other one is you're getting money.
Well, but they're making money on the Medicare. Presumably they're making money on the contract. Presumably the hospital is making money on the contract. So if the hospital makes money, it's to have a kickback, it doesn't have to be cash. Remember, that's the one everybody knows. But you can give a kickback in kind with something else. It could be a case of wine, my favorite example, or it could be patience.
This is payment for service, so I don't.
Well, but they're making money.
It's not for nothing. Wine's for nothing. Money's for nothing.
Well, no.
This is we're doing a service.
We're doing a service,
You're getting paid.
but you're paying for us, and so we're getting revenue, you're getting revenue. You're doing a service that you're making money on. Remember, what the OIG said was, it was the contract that was the remuneration. It was getting the contract, because the contract had value. The contract gave you the right to earn money.
Now, but
Yeah.
in a sense, one of the defense to this.
There were defenses. I'm not saying there weren't.
And I think to your point, Dr. Norris, the defense here was that the contract in and of itself was not above fair market
Right.
value.
Right. That was the defense was that the contract was a fair market value. There was no ever question this contract was not a fair market value. But what the government is saying is that the ability, promising cases to get a contract is a violation, because it's the contract that is what you got. We had lots of, believe me, we had lots of arguments that wouldn't be true. As we've said before, it was too difficult to do, and you made the decision not to go through with the process of getting to court. So that what we're stuck with, because we didn't go to court, and I'm not saying you made the wrong decision, is that we're stuck with their interpretation. So, I understand what you're saying.
It's frustrating.
It's very frustrating. And what I said, when you talk about the, threatening, okay? I've had many discussions on this, and what they were doing was stating the obvious, right? If you say, if you don't take the contract, I'm going to move my patients, isn't that the obvious? Right? That's what they were doing. But if you think about it, if you say to somebody, I know some really bad things about you. I know that you stole some money. And if you don't do something, I will go to the government and tell them. That could be extortion, right? But if you just go to the government, don't say anything, that's fine. It's the threat becomes the crime.
The irony here is, here's the irony, the economy is so ridiculous. In one instance, you go to a hospital and you say, if you don't do this, use this company, we're going to take our cases away. It's a threat. And the other side, you're saying, if you go to a company and say, if you use a hospital, if you use our company, we're going to give you cases. And that's wrong. So they're both opposite, they're both wrong.
Right. I understand that, and I understand the problem. And I will tell you, I had a harder time with the threats, right? Because to me, it's stating the obvious.
It's not a threat.
No, to me, it's stating the obvious. But that's the government's view, and where we are now is we're going to have to accept the government's view because we have no choice, right? So whether we like it or not, we're here.
We have a choice. We can vote the government out.
The problem is those are civil servants. Yeah, the problem with that thought is that these are the same people. We went through 2 administrations with this one. These are the civil servants, and they weren't changing. So I suppose they could change it on high, but here we are. So, yeah.
I would just say one thing to that. We and our attorneys both were of the opinion that what we did generally was within the law. Had we gone to court, we would have won. The problem is, because you can't fight the law, you are stuck with their interpretation, whether it's right or it's wrong. And therefore, although we believe that we were entirely within the law when we did what we did, and we believed it after we settled, and that was part of the settlement. They accepted us in the settlement. They don't say it there. But the settlement in written says we deny or that we did anything wrong. Problem is, at this point, whatever they interpret as law, whether they're right or wrong, that's the law.
Yeah.
And we
So,
definitely
yeah. So we're stuck. It's, just want to be sure I'm in the right place here, see where I am. Okay. All right, here we get another one. Okay. June 11, 2007, there's a memo from someone at United to others at United. And it says somebody else, the third person at United, spoke with Dr. G last night. Dr. G spoke with someone at a hospital and told him he would move all of his cases to still another hospital unless the hospital agreed to a $2,900 case rate. Okay. So the problem here is it's not just the doc, it's not somebody here saying, we're going to talk about emails in a minute. It's not here somebody saying, oh my God, this person did this. They seem kind of happy about it, or at least neutral, right? Yeah. Right? Okay, then individual United in Hospital 1 lithotripsy renegotiated in 2007. I asked if they'd spoken to the urologist. I also said the urologist had other places to do their cases. Same kind of thing.
But again, we renegotiated it, it was renegotiated well below that number. In fact, below our competitors.
Okay. Okay, individual at United and hospital lithotripsy contract negotiations. I would find out from individual United, another one, if the doctors are willing to take their business to another hospital. Our directive is not to decrease our payment, especially if the docs are strong and will take cases elsewhere. So it shows the whole picture. You know, were you willing to take it? Now, can you ask, if there were, supposing this were in isolation and you said to the doctors, you know, we're not getting a contract at hospital X, you know, if we get one at hospital Y, will you use it? I don't know that's a problem if it were isolated all by itself. The problem is this is all mixed up with all this other stuff that was going on and with the negotiations at the hospital. Okay, investment opportunities. What the government said is this showed that investment was tied to business referrals. United executive tells individual United that Dr. F agrees we will not take his money until we have a contract with the hospital. So what it's saying is we only want him to invest. He's agreed that he's only going to invest if he's going to be able to use the service. And this is always a chicken and egg thing, I think. You know, do you get the hospital service or do you get the doctor first? And this is a very difficult thing to do.
Hey, Ray, I want to clarify this first,
Yeah.
because I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about any of these contracts. I've never seen them, these emails. But I want to say, if say we're working in Nebraska, we have no place to work, nothing to do, is it wrong to tell a doctor, well, we can't give you sell you shares in the company unless we have a place to work? Is that wrong?
I think what you have to do, we're going to have to put a script together for you. And I think what you have to do is you can meet with doctors and see if they're interested in the service.
You have to do what?
If they're interested in this kind of a service.
Right.
And then it's kind of a dance as to what you do. I think we're going to have to script this for you.
I mean, you yourselves told us that we can sell stock to whoever we want to sell stock
Yes,
to.
you can.
Right?
Yep.
So we don't want to sell
Yeah.
stock to them. So what's wrong with that? That's the point I'm making. You said we can sell
See,
stock.
I think that this email is the least problem email of any of them that are here. I really do. But we're here, and we've got to do a script for you because the government's going to be watching. So we're going to do something. Okay. All right, Dr. F writes to an individual at United, I am working on a certain hospital. Good progress to use your LaserScope PVP laser. I have used it, may schedule another 2 or so soon. If done, and if hospital, and get hospital to use it, i.e. out of competitor contract, am I eligible to be an owner of the PVP system with you? I am trained in doing it. So what do we say about this? What's it look like that's going on? And remember, this is all a package, you know, it's kind of one thing on another. So what he's saying is, if I can get rid of the others and bring you into the hospital, can I buy? So what it looks like is that you're rewarding him for getting the contract with the hospital, getting rid of the competitor by getting stock. That's what it looks like. Whether it was or it wasn't, I'm just telling you what it looks like. It's the problem of email. Okay, but that's what it looks like. Okay, another individual at United to an executive. I wrote you some time ago, February, March, to get approval to sell Dr. G one additional share, giving him 4 total. You approved it contingent on getting the hospital contract for litho and PVP at hospital. We did get this contract in March, and we have been doing cases in hospital. We have already done 4 SWOLs and 4 PVPs. The response was, fine, offering him a half share now, and we'll try to give him another half share in 6 months. So what it's saying is, what the government sees it as, is he's now doing cases, or he got the contracts, one or the other, and now you can give him some shares. So that's the government's view, and there we are. Let's see where I am on this. Questions about all this stuff? Anybody?
That's $7.5 million.
It's everything. Well, I would. All right, you want my view on this?
Yeah.
My view on this is that the amount of money they got from you was far in excess of the amount of money they should have gotten. Far in excess. And I think that, and in speaking with other healthcare lawyers, everybody is seeing the same problem. One healthcare lawyer, very prominent, very well known, I was talking to him recently about the situation, and he said to me, his comment was, he said, I don't even know how we can say that we should market ourselves as being better. He says, because everybody is getting the shaft from the government. So, you know, it's their game, they run the game, and we got to play by their rules, or we got to get out of the game.
So the takeaway message is, don't email you smoke signals.
No. The takeaway is that you don't involve doctors, you don't threaten to move patients, you don't do any of those things.
Well, you know, I go in front of that. You know, he's joking.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is, one of the things you should take away from this is this. No matter what you write in your emails, somebody's going to construe it in a different way.
Right. We're going to get there. Yeah.
And the result is, I do not want to see any emails going around that even vaguely could be construed as a doctor involved in contracting, or a doctor involved in sending a case somewhere. Don't send it. And that goes to the contractors, that goes to the salespeople, that goes to the text, that goes everywhere. This email is a killer. And it's a killer because you may not even mean exactly what you said, but what you didn't think about it and jotting it off, what was in there. And someone's going to interpret it wrong. Don't send an email ever involving a contract that has a doctor involved with it. Don't do it. If you really have to do something, get on the phone. Talk to them on the phone.
Also, another thing is, what control do we have over doctors sending us an email, unbeknownst to us, saying, you know, I talked to John Jones and he's going to use your service? What can we do about that?
What you can do, we're going to talk about it in a few minutes, what you can do is how you respond to it. So it's clear that this isn't what you want. Okay, here's another one.
One last question.
Yeah, sure.
Because you answered this in the affirmative before. If a doctor does you a big thing, does work for you, is really working on your behalf, are you, like somebody asked, are you entitled to pay him for that, or to do?
I would not pay a doctor to get a contract with a hospital.
Not a contract.
No, but if a doctor does something else, for example, you gave me an example, somebody did a video.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Okay, that's different. If he produces a video, he really did it, you pay a fair market value price for the services he provided you.
Okay.
That's fine. You're doing him, you know, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with a medical director. The problem with medical directors is that some companies use them as a way to funnel more money. But companies all have medical directors because you need them. The problem is that you find some companies who have have far more than what they need 8, couple would work, that kind of thing. Okay, here's another one. United Individuals to Physician Investors. We are asking for this happened in the prostate companies, it's not going to happen in ASWOL. We are asking for minimal capital investment from our urologists. Letter to potential physician investors from United. Our return on investment is not a projection, but rather a proven historical track record. We have consistently returned over 130% return on investment since the inception of our company. Government complained that it was there was very little money put in for very little risk, and they got a lot of return. I can give an answer to that. I will tell you that if you buy something, you adequately capitalize the company. I have no idea whether it was or not. But if you adequately capitalize a company, on a startup company, and people make more money because they knew they needed the service, you got to wonder why the government cares, but the government seems to. My example is, for example, you're running an office, you're an intern, and you say, I send everybody out, all these people out to get EKGs. That seems pretty stupid. I see a lot of people with EKGs. I'm going to buy my own EKG machine, and I can get that. I'm not going to do any more than I did before. I'm just doing what I need. And you make money on it. Maybe you make a lot of money on it because the machine doesn't cost that much, and you get it. Is that a problem because you're making a lot of money on the investment? The government sometimes says yes. I think that in isolation, it wouldn't have been a problem if they were adequately capitalized. The question is whether they were adequately capitalized and the government was looking at the whole shebang.
Okay, I'll answer that question.
Right.
These guys are not businessmen. If you look at any service company, I don't care what the service company is, the returns on capital investment are enormous. Why? Because what you're giving is a service. It's the employees that are the cost, not the capital. So to say that the capital return, if you look at an accounting firm, or if you look at a lawyer's, what's your return on capital for your office? Huge. But where's it going? To salaries. Okay?
Well, yeah.
To say, but those are salaries. But those salaries go to the lawyers. They go to the accountants and whatnot. So I don't care what the service organization is. If you look at any successful service organization, it's always a huge profit for the capital investment. Capital means buying equipment. This business is more service. Our biggest cost in any of our businesses is not the machines, it's the salaries in this room. And I'm thrilled that it is.
I think what they're looking at, though, is that the expenses, so the salaries are still an expense, and your return on investment would be less because of the
Doesn't make
expense.
any difference.
That's what, I think that's what they're looking at. I don't know.
I understand. That's still how.
Right. So what this gets me to is pro forma. Okay? Then there was another comment, but I'm not performing it. We're willing to forego the 6% management fee until initial investors have received 100% return on their investment. That was also seen as an inducement to bring them in. Normally you charge a fee, and now you're not.
What? Why is that an inducement?
This was viewed to be.
They don't even know it. The investors don't even know that's happening.
No, I'm not saying that they're right on this one, okay? But what they're saying is that when you were looking at people who were going to invest, these were people who hadn't invested yet, that you agreed to forego something to bring them in. Whether foregoing your management fee really should matter to the government, beats me, but that's what they were doing. That's what they were saying. I think that's a pretty weak argument.
That is so off base that someone makes you want to.
It's a very weak argument on this one. I agree. Okay, performance. This is what was not helpful. This is where they made the Bernie Madoff comment. What they did is, these are the performers. I will tell you that we prefer if you don't use performance, because they end up being estimates. You don't know what's going to happen. Sometimes they look really wild, and it doesn't help you. What we do say is, if you're going to do in performers, then do a losing one, a middle one, and a making one money. But the reality is, you're only getting physicians to invest now in UUC. It's a company that's around. It's been working. It's not new. This was from the prostate stuff. So it's here. You can give them financials, what happened before, but I wouldn't do some kind of pro forma for them. It just doesn't make any sense. It's a going company. It's been going for 20 years. Everybody knows. It's got a track record.